He is a hurt man protecting his fragile ego after getting mollywopped by an opponent more talented than he is. Hey, Curly Tees. Listen, I was DIYing for about 2 hours straight. And so I took a break, checked the messages on social media, and I see everybody losing their mind over the fact that Drake is apparently preparing to sue his own record label after a rap battle that he lost. Let me just get right into it. Drake is preparing to sue Universal Music Group, that's UMG, after a horrific loss in a rap battle to Kendrick Lamar. The sore loser has filed a pre-action petition declaring his intentions to sue UMG for engaging in an alleged scheme to inflate Lamar's song Not Like Us. What's happening? Let's get right into it. The formerly relevant rapper, and I'm gonna say it like that because that's the way it is. The formerly relevant rapper is accusing UMG of engaging in a whole RICO. A RICO, girl, that's what they're trying to get Diddy on. A RICO. According to reports about the legal action filed with the court, Drake is accusing them of, quote, deceptive business practices and false advertising. Now, Drake says they purposely saturated streaming services and, quote, the airwaves. Child, what? Child, who even says that in the airwaves? Who even says that anymore? The next day, he filed a second action. He went back to back with pre-action legal papers.
Nigga, what?
The next day, he filed a second action with the court accusing iHeartRadio of taking, quote, funneled payments from UMG to promote Not Like Us. Not Like Us. That's the song he says has fake views and has been aided and abetted by UMG. Drake says that UMG could have stopped the song from being released because it contains allegedly false claims of him being a pet. Drake and his attorneys want depositions from, quote, key figures at UMG and iHeart to try to help support his case when he does file a lawsuit in the future, I'm guessing. To be clear, these are not lawsuits right now. He's not suing right now as of this recording. These are pre-action filings with the purpose of trying to force disclosure of relevant information about a proposed legal action. In the second legal action, Drake says it was within UMG's power to stop Not Like Us from being released because it allegedly contains false claims about him. But think about that. Really, truly pay attention to what he's asking. According to Drake, seemingly, UMG was supposed to stop the release because it contains what Drake says are false claims. Let me say that again so you can understand the seriousness of what I'm saying. Drake is saying UMG was supposed to stop the release of Kendrick Lamar's song or edit his diss track because it contains what Drake says are false claims. What in the world? How is that UMG's fault to begin with? Was UMG obligated to step in and protect him, to protect his image, to protect his fragile ego? I cannot believe that this is so egregious. This is so egregious. I can hardly believe it. Y'all don't even understand. Well, maybe y'all do. A lot of people do. I'm coming to find out. A lot of people understand how ridiculous this is. Did Drake file an injunction to get Not Like Us banned at the time of its release? No, he didn't. At the time it was released, Drake didn't try to get anything removed. So what obligation did UMG have to sabotage Kendrick Lamar's release of that song? Because that's what it is. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like to me that Drake is ticked off that UMG didn't sabotage Kendrick Lamar's song. But what obligation would they have to sabotage Kendrick Lamar's song if you didn't even lodge a complaint, Drake? It seems like Drake is mad at UMG because they didn't sabotage the song, because they didn't block it from being released, because they didn't run interference for him. Is he angry at them for not ruining Kendrick Lamar's release in a rap battle? I ain't got the words. I'm trying to keep it PG. I'm trying to keep it PG. Baby, I'm trying not to curse because this is it's infuriating on a level where I just can hardly get my words out right now. because I'm coming to this new. I'm seeing everything that everybody is posting because people have been going ham apparently all day. Okay, so this is another thing that we're not finna do. We're not about to compare Drake to Michael Jackson. Be calm down a little because I need to explain some stuff to y'all. I've seen people compare this Drake UMG situation to Michael Jackson and Sony. No. First of all, on a macro level, it didn't seem like Drake cared much at all about other artists being allegedly trampled upon and disrespected and sabotaged until now. This is very much unlike Michael Jackson, who actually used his label to wage a fight with MTV back in the 80s to get his and other black artists' videos played on their network. MTV was not playing black videos. Any artist that was niggera and wanted to put their video on MTV, that was a no. They were not doing that. And it just so happened that Michael Jackson was popular enough and a big enough star to get his record label to make MTV start playing their videos. He burst that door down for everybody that came after him who was not super white and singing rock music. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get to the main point. Michael Jackson's dispute with Sony revolved around Sony USA allegedly sabotaging his music and hindering the operation of his business.
I just did good business, So, the way they get revenge is to try and destroy my album.
They allegedly wanted to make him look weaker to whoever would possibly do business with him in the future. He was essentially out the door. Michael Jackson was leaving. He was leaving Sony and owning half of Sony's publishing. He wasn't trying to bring down all of Sony, unlike what the Drake sycophants are claiming today. Michael Jackson would go on to own half of all of Sony's publishing in the form of Sony ATV. The catalog owned over 5 million songs by everyone from the Beatles and Queen to Stevie Wonder and Beyonce, child. It was very much in Michael Jackson's best interest that Sony did well financially. It was very much in his interest that Sony did well financially. He wasn't trying to take down Sony. This is different from what's going on with Drake. As a matter of fact, Sony was Japanese owned. Let's go back in history a bit, okay? Sony was Japanese owned. If I remember correctly, there were reports that Michael Jackson and one of the heads of Sony Japan, the boss of all bosses, the boss of all of Sony all over the world, were on very good terms at one point, okay? It was the former U.S. head of Sony, the head of Sony USA, who allegedly hated that. The person Michael Jackson referred to as, quote, a devil, him, that guy. People speculated at the time that he allegedly hated the fact that Michael Jackson could go over his head directly to the bosses at Sony Japan. He allegedly hated, absolutely hated, allegedly, that Michael Jackson was invaluable to the main company and couldn't just be fired like any other artist. That was a problem. Remember, Michael Jackson owned half of Sony Publishing. From my understanding, Michael Jackson never accused Sony of inflating the numbers of a competitor's music or pushing a song with a bunch of false allegations against him to the top of the charts. It's not even remotely the same. There is no similarity between what Drake is doing and what Michael Jackson is doing, because you would have to know the motives and the intentions of Drake in order to even make that comparison. But on the surface, there is no comparison, because these seem to be two separate situations. People are saying Drake is essentially trying to break UMG, he's trying to be a hero and to stand up for the little guy. When Michael Jackson called the former head of Sony USA a devil, he talked about a very personal interaction he had with another super famous female singer, the ex-wife of that man. Y'all know who it is. I'm not going to say any names, but Michael Jackson recounted a personal interaction between himself and that female star and what she told him about the former head of Sony.
And Tommy Mottola is a devil.
Respect!
Drake, in contrast, has yet to allege that the head of UMG is an awful person who needs to be fired. These two situations are just completely different. Anyone bringing up Michael Jackson and Sony into this whole Drake and UMG fight has either been misled, or they were too young to know what happened, or they are purposely lying. They are purposely lying to lionize Drake. One would have to wonder why Drake cares so much now. Why now? For years, I was already suspicious that Drake's music and some of the other people's music that I will not name here was being pushed by whoever does that sort of thing, that they had the backing of a giant label that was forcing their songs down people's throat. Now, I already thought his numbers were inflated. I had absolutely no evidence to confirm that. I still don't. It was just my own suspicion. Not Like Us was released in May of 2024. Its popularity was driven by its devastating lyrics, that incredibly catchy melody, and that call and response section at the end. That was perfect. That song was objectively popular. So how does one prove it wouldn't have gotten massive numbers without an imaginary mythical boost that Drake is trying to convince us that it had? How? How can you prove that it wouldn't have gotten those massive numbers without this imaginary boost through a RICO level of scheming by his record label? How you gonna prove that, bro? Now, some people are already speculating that this is Drake's swan song, that he's tired of doing this rap stuff, that he no longer sees a future for himself at the number one spot, that he's preparing for a move back into acting, whatever the situation is. But why not just go? Why not just leave? Well, some people say that he's petty and still wants to save face. After all of that, he still wants to save face. This is all my own personal speculation. I think that somebody has gotten into Drake's ear and is egging him on in this direction. If it were me and I wanted to sabotage him, one thing I'd do is figure out a way to drain his accounts. One way to do that is to tie him up into protracted litigation. The attorney's fees for a suit against a gigantic company like UMG would be astronomical. It's going to be astronomical if he does file suit. Add to that Drake's vices. Now, there are unproven rumors that Drake likes to gamble, and he loses big money and doesn't think twice about it. One of the quickest ways to drain a bank account is to have a gambling problem. I'm not saying that that's what Drake has. I have no idea. I'm just telling you, you add an enormous amount of fees going out to legal. You add on top of that whatever vices, gambling problems, or whatever he has, and add to that, apparently Drake has purchased a gigantic $15 million ranch in Texas. The upkeep alone is going to be expensive on that thing. Add to that ruining his reputation and transforming him from a diamond into a plain rock. What big corporation is going to pay Drake millions and millions of dollars in endorsements and sponsorships now that he has wrecked what was left of his cool image by filing a lawsuit after a rap battle he lost? I mean, this is someone who was saying the N-word with the hard R at the end. It took a Herculean effort, possibly by the same people he's threatening to sue right now, to turn him into a cool rap star. So he'll be in a situation where he'll have a ton of money going out and not enough money coming back in to replace it. One thing you will never, ever gonna get people to see as cool is running to the feds because you got a verbal ass whooping that you provoked. That will never be cool. Ever. It never has been, and it never will be. Drake's name may or may not have been tarnished during that back and forth with Kendrick Lamar. I say it was. Some people say he could recover, but his name is mud today. His name is mud right now. His name is mud. At least in these hip-hop streets, in these rap streets, it's over. It's done, baby. I don't know what to tell you. And it's more evidence of Kendrick Lamar's point that Drake is not of the culture. Drake has not been from the culture. He may not even be cool in a regular sense, let alone be cool enough to be part of, or the leader of, or the head of, or a significant voice in Black American hip-hop culture. Did any other rapper who lost the beef run to the feds and sue their label? I think Ja Rule would have had a case. If that is what we was doing, Ja Rule would have had a case. But that ain't what we doing. And we ain't finna start now. And we're not about to let beige rage push all of us into another ridiculous situation. I mean, I think Drake is just arrogant enough to try to set a hazardous, insidious precedent here. I think this mofo may actually be trying to ruin rap battle as an art form simply because he lost. I think he may be trying to set that precedent. Imagine getting into a verbal battle that requires a high level of skill, a verbal battle that requires you to be quick-witted, that you have to be adept at knowing how to shape a phrase into the rhythmic movements of a beat. Like, imagine that, and being terrified that the label you are signed to can shut you down because they don't want to take the risk of being sued by the person that you are in a battle with. I think this petty mofo is trying to ruin the long tradition of rap battles because he lost. Like, he was fine with everything. He was fine going back and forth with Meek Mill. He was fine because he won that. He didn't even behave this awfully after he lost that battle with Pusha T. I think it irritates Drake's soul that Kendrick Lamar became even more popular after this battle. Pusha T didn't become super popular. He just didn't. He didn't become super famous after that rap battle that he won against Drake. And so it didn't hurt Drake's ego as much. But because Kendrick Lamar is short and dark-skinned and went to public schools and grew up in the ghetto, and Drake can't figure out how in the world he could possibly be better than him at anything. I can hear this saying,
how in the world can he possibly be better than me? How, Mom? How? I don't get it. I mean, he's dark-skinned and he's short, and he grew up in the ghettos and he went to public school. How can he possibly have won this? Fair and square. There's no way, Mom. There's no way. How?
That's Drake. That's the vibe I'm getting from him, I swear to God. That's the vibe I'm getting for that man. He cannot handle how this man can be better than him at everything, including Whitney. Y'all ain't ready to have that conversation. On top of everything we've seen so far, Whitney looks like the type that Drake would go for. The fact that she has a family with somebody like Kendrick Lamar probably irritates the crap out of Drake. Now, that's totally unrelated to what's going on right now, but it paints the picture of us trying to figure out why Drake seemed to malfunction during this rap battle. And after this rap battle, he's continuing to malfunction. Somebody needs to go reset that. Push the reset button. In my opinion, Drake is his reputation was shaky after that rap battle, but it is in tatters today. There were people holding out hope that he would get himself together, that he would mature, that he would go away for a while, he would let people have a chance to miss him, then he would come back strong with something, anything, something important, something relevant. Unless you are a sycophant, that hope is over. Now, not only is Drake working the refs, he done went to HR. He done demanded to speak to a manager. He done wrote a strongly worded email to corporate. He done tipped off the feds because his cut wasn't big enough. He done called the cops because Kendrick Lamar was being too black in public. Kendrick Lamar barbecuing in the park, and Drake done called the cops on him. It is that level of absurdity that we are all witnessing right now. Whoever is in this man's ear intends to ruin him in the next year or two. It's even worse if this is Drake making the decisions. I would prefer that somebody was talking to him, trying to incite him to commit career. I can't say that word because YouTube is what it is, but you know what I'm trying to say. I would understand it better if somebody was trying to talk him into doing this foolishness. But if this is coming from him, my God, filing these two actions are even more devastating to what is left of his career than he can ever imagine.
Quality is coming to the dreamers and the bold. Join a child and let your story